Hello friends, Lewis here, and today we're going to talk about ChatGPT. What is it? How does it work? How can you factor it into your workflow, and how can you use it to benefit your business? So this presentation here was actually generated by ChatGPT, a third-party product called Gamma that produces slideshows, uses ChatGPT under the hood, and produces content for you. So let's read from the slides and try and supplement with our own information as we go. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligent chatbot that uses natural language processing to engage in conversations with humans. It acts as a virtual assistant that understands human language and interprets complex queries to provide appropriate responses. I would argue that the appropriate responses, not sponsors, component of that could be pretty questionable, but that is the beauty of prompt writing, and the more refined your prompt writing becomes, the better the outcomes. So what does it stand for? Well, ChatGPT uses advanced algorithms to chat with humans and fulfill their queries, which is the chat part, and then the GPT part, which is Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is a long-winded way of explaining a piece of innovative technology that uses AI for transforming written words into meaningful outputs. Basically, think of a giant web, and that web takes a bunch of inputs and then tries to match them up with the perceived or appropriate outputs that it thinks it should create based on the algorithm that powers it. And that's when you'll hear people talk about tuning or fine-tuning. What they're trying to do is marry up the probability of the words matching correctly in the appropriate outcome. So the history and the backstory of ChatGPT. Chat rooms is a pretty old school concept where you can sort of jump in and converse back and forth with a friend. Then, there's always been this concept of bots, but they've always been terrible. And when I say terrible, very limited in their capability and capacity to provide anything in ingenuity, or anything that goes sort of marginally outside of their pre-programmed set of variables that they can reply to. So with OpenAI, with the Transformer innovation, and with ChatGPT, we've seen an amazing increase in performance and the ability for that tooling to provide really, really good, really, really accurate, and quite valuable responses to prompts and queries. So how does it actually work under the hood? We're not going to go into the technical detail of things because none of us really care. I think there's definitely a subset of people that care that are trying to build it. For our purposes, we do not care about the complexities of it. But long story short, they take inputs. Now let's talk about the training as well as the actual input. They create an index and they create a crawler and they go through and they index a huge amount of content from the web. So that could be anything like PDF documents, ebooks, transcripts from YouTube videos, document templates, HTML document templates that live out on the web, and then they basically index them into a huge vector database, and then they scan, crawl, index, and then practice retrieval of different pieces of information and creation of new pieces of information from that stored body of information. And that's where you see the NLP and the model training occur. They create a set of rules that it must adhere to and stick to, and then they generate and synthesize responses. So if you think about the entire history of the internet and the amount of people that have commented on blogs and forums and Twitter and Reddit and YouTube comments and all of those sorts of things, you've got a lot of opinions out there, right? And you've also got a lot of factual information, things like Wikipedia and Google Scholar providing like real scientific explanations and outputs of results of inputted information. So clever way of doing it. The real innovation in my eyes is the application of the technology. So Google had a lot of these different random pieces and components of tech, right? And could have produced something similar, and they held on to it, right? For their own ill will or for their own profit. And that's fine because, they created it. But the great thing about ChatGPT is it's forced more people into the market, and it's forced exposure of that technology. And now we're starting to see all these different AI startups popping up and providing their own version of these different trained models with different sizes of indexed knowledge and parameters with which it's working. So really, really exciting time to be alive, and amazing innovation for us to start applying to our businesses. There's kind of literally an endless series of applications of ChatGPT. These are three, right? These are three that were automatically generated by ChatGPT, but I mean, sales, marketing, customer support, e-commerce, healthcare, legal, law, finance, you name it, production, manufacturing, anything. Because even if you don't use it as a core product within a business, you can use it as the basis for efficiency enhancement within a company. And that's where the exciting part of the innovation comes. Limitations of ChatGPT, there's obviously limitations to every piece of technology, but there's some definite blockers between memory, not really a concept that it has right now. It has a very sort of small, short context window that it can perform an action or activity with. And that's where you see people start trying to break off and create things like Auto GPT, where they try and use things like LangChain to hook up multiple AI models and AI context windows to produce bigger, more advanced and more capable outputs. There are still some language barriers, both technical languages, mathematical languages, and actual like fluent languages that people speak. Those will all be obliterated in a matter of time, and it's not a long-term blocker, it's a short-term blocker as they train the models. And then system dependency, I don't really see the system, like maybe system dependencies for larger enterprise customers that don't want to expose their information to unknown models. And then in terms of the speed with which models can be trained, but once again, when they start applying artificial intelligence to transformer creation and running scenarios and algorithms for improved training models, it's only going to be a matter of time before you can run all of this stuff locally on a terribly low spec device, and you'll be able to have it in your pocket, and we'll all be walking around with personalized AI. So how can you take advantage of that now? And that's what we're going to try and cover in this course. Obviously, the conclusion and or future developments is broad again, right? Like, this is already a revolution, and it's a revolution in productivity, right? There's been a fairly stagnant period. People got interested in crypto, and we're trying to look at different ways to grow and increase value within the economy, the global economy. This is like a true enabling technology that will allow us to grab it, run with it, and really use this beautiful set of new tools to iterate on the existing technology. Also, like, they're innovating so quickly. They're adding plugins, they're adding bigger models, they're adding bigger context windows so that you can put larger pieces of text into the context window and get better outputs. You're also seeing things like web browsing being added. So now we can jump in and like ask a question, and if we get a stale response or something that's old and non-factual, we can get them to go and look further for information. It's honestly amazing, and it's a very exciting time to be alive. See you in the next module.